So when you hear the name Van Halen, you get a charge of excitement that flows through you. You expect something to happen. You want fireworks. And if there's one thing that Wolfgang Van Halen has been going out of his way to do, it's to avoid fireworks. It doesn't have the kind of fire and energy that the original Van Halen had, say, or the kinds of bands you would associate with Van Halen has. So Wolfgang faces an impossible level of scrutiny. Fans and critics alike often measure him against his father, and this is unavoidable since Eddie Van Halen is one of the most influential guitarists and musicians of all time. So every single thing that he does, Wolfgang's solos, riffs, albums, are filtered through the lens of, hey, is this anything like his dad? And it's like being asked to sprint an Olympic race your whole life while carrying a backpack filled with trophies that somebody else already won. And as bad as that problem is, he's got even worse problems. And one of them is he can't escape the virtuoso label. He has to show that he's a master musician somehow, and he can't really do this by coming out and soloing because he'll never be able to solo better than his father. He can't come out and do it on some other weird instrument because his father was a rock musician. So he has to show his virtuosity, in this case, by being a one-man band. He writes, records, and plays almost all the instruments himself. He's a good singer, he's a good player, but the problem is this is no longer the kind of thing that draws attention, given that the new tools that surround us and more people to create music alone are to create music in a one-person virtuoso type environment. So instead of leaning into collaboration and building a traditional band dynamic, Wolfgang has been alone in the spotlight, even though he has a band, because of his legacy, because of his family lineage. There's yet another problem that he has, which is any band today has to struggle to draw attention. So if he wasn't Eddie Van Halen's son, Mammoth WVH might not get any attention at all. Rock is no longer the dominant cultural force that it was in the 70s or 80s or even the 90s. And in streaming and social media, fragmented social media platforms makes it really hard for guitar-driven music to reach new casual listeners. And if you're a good singer, that's great, but you have to be an incredibly good singer for that alone to draw listeners and to maintain interest in what you're doing. But I know none of those problems that I've just mentioned are really what are holding Wolfgang Van Halen back. There is a main issue, and that is there's no real audience for the kind of music that he's playing. He's playing highly polished, guitar-driven, alternative style rock. It sits in a kind of weird middle ground. It's too refined for heavy metal fans and too heavy and guitar-focused for pop fans or hip-hop fans. And even if Wolfgang weren't Eddie's son, all of these challenges would face the band he's in, because despite the fact that his music is amazing, precise, and virtuosic, it's swimming against the current tide. And there's not that much room for bands of this variety to occupy. You can have a niche audience, which is what they have now, but to get any further than that is going to be a severe challenge. Here's some ways I think he could expand his reach without actually changing what he's doing. One would be to collaborate with some newer artists to bridge the generational gap. Another would be to do some really hard-hitting, high-energy live performances to get out on social media. And then another might be being a little bit more open about his upbringing and his biography and telling some social media stories. That's up to him, but I just think from a perspective of getting the word out about what he's doing, that would help. Whether he wants to do it or not, it would be helpful. And I think his talent is undeniable. Problem isn't Wolfgang's talent or musicianship, it's the market today, and every musician has that problem. So Wolfgang Van Halen isn't actually failing, he's just facing one of the toughest musical challenges imaginable, being a brilliant rock musician in a time when there isn't a ready audience for what he does best. And the real question is, can he redefine himself and find an audience, or will he just keep proving to the world that talent alone isn't always the end of the story? What do you think? Is Wolfgang's music destined to remain a niche favorite, or can he carve out a bigger audience? Can he ever crawl out of Ed's shadow? And will he do so by finding a more definitive statement about who he is? Let me know in the comments below.
MusicGuru here, asking you to help us on our march to 10,000 subscribers.